Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Dan, a member of the CK-12 team. My extremely talented colleague Katie and I will be running this session on using CK-12 with Schoology. We're so glad you've joined us today. Now, before we begin, I just want to make sure everyone is comfortable using the Zoom webinar platform. You should see two different options on your Zoom screen, one for Q&A and one for chat. During today's presentation, whenever you have a question about CK-12, please post it in the Q&A window. The chat window is a place for a community conversation, so we'd love for all of you to introduce yourselves. If you're an educator, please feel free to tell us where you live and the subject you teach. Just make sure in the chat window that you're sending any general posts to everyone and not just to CK-12 or the panelists. We have created a resource page for everything you might need to know about CK-12's integration with Schoology. You can find it at ck12.org/Schoology or through our tools and apps page, which can be found in our footer. It's a resource that you can use at any point to remind yourself of what was covered or to share key steps and quick videos with your colleagues and students. The webinar recording at the bottom will be updated with today's webinar shortly. Given that this is meant to be a short webinar specifically to highlight CK-12's integration with Schoology, let's just jump right into the content. And as we go, again, please feel free to post any questions that you have for us in the Q&A window.
Thanks, Dan. Today's session about CK-12's integration with Schoology is going to focus on two things. One, the first is our CK-12 offerings, our Flexbooks 2.0 and related modalities. We'll give you a quick overview of them and kind of show you them as we navigate the platform. And then also our integration with Schoology. So where you can find the key to set up Schoology, assigning lessons and modalities, and how to see student progress and insights within Schoology.
Katie will go through this more in the live demo, but our Flexbook 2.0 lessons include text, often with embedded multimedia and questions, and corresponding practice or a customized quiz. Other assignable resources, which can be found in the related modalities for a 2.0 lesson or individually across our site, include videos, simulations, Plix interactives, and real-world applications.
Now, while you can always share a link to a CK-12 resource, we often have teachers share whole Flexbooks with their class as a reference link, which is great, but be sure to actually assign resources in order to have CK-12 grade and give insights on the work students do. Now, just a note, if you're using an LMS, plan to assign your content there in Schoology and skip creating additional classes within CK-12. You just need to use one. So go ahead and make that assignment by using the assign options within Schoology. And then once assigned, students can simply access CK-12 directly from the links within Schoology. From there, you'll be able to see progress when students complete and submit their work. As a note, on the left there, you can see if you're sharing a link to something, make sure to click the display in new window option within Schoology, because Schoology automatically puts any shared link within a generic iframe, and that's not going to work with CK-12 content for security reasons. So go ahead and share that, click the display in new window, and that's a great option for sharing, or to see grades, make sure that you actually assign it through the add materials option that we'll talk about.
Whether a Flexbook 2.0 lesson or other learning modality, you can assign these when making an assignment directly in Schoology by clicking on Add Materials and then the CK-12 app. You'll need to enable grading after the assignment is made. Once live, students will access the CK-12 assignment directly in Schoology and complete their work. Just have them click Turn In when done to submit their scores to your gradebook. Any work assigned in Schoology and completed there by students will show up in the Schoology gradebook once they submit it. You can access the link from within any assignment to see a full class report for all CK-12 assignments. This includes a heat map based on what students have completed and how they did on quizzes, or you can toggle to the skill level option to see how students are mastering practice. Plus, practice and quiz assignments have more detailed information, including time spent, skill level on practice, level of questions, and even the questions and the answers the students noted. If you assign a Flexbook 2.0 lesson, you can also access our insights for that by clicking on the link when you open the assignment within Schoology. From there, you'll see time spent, a histogram of that time, a skill level for attached practice, or percent for quiz, and you'll see the engagement for assignments. You can also see class level insights that map engagement in the lesson to how students did on an attached practice or quiz. This is followed by various insights such as interactives that successful students have accessed, questions that multiple students struggled with, and more. And recommendations we have for particular students, such as checking out a prerequisite, trying another concept, exploring missed questions, and more.
So the question is where to get started. Now, if CK-12 is not already installed in your instance of Schoology, go to our footer, click on Tools and Apps, and then scroll down to find the CK-12 on Schoology option to get to the resource page that we referenced earlier. So if you click that orange button, it'll take you to that ck12.org/Schoology page. And if you need to go straight to the form to access the key and secret, which your IT team probably knows exactly what I'm talking about, they can access that form there and request that. When you open that form up, either from that page or directly at ck12.org/pages/LMS integrations, you'll see the option to fill this out as a teacher or admin IT. Now, if you have someone that is in charge of Schoology for your whole school or district, you really should have the person that does that fill this out and install CK-12 across Schoology. This is going to make it work cleanly for all of your students and teachers that are using the same platform. And it also means that you don't have to attach it class by class as you go through. Now, if and only if you are a teacher who is using the older free version of Schoology independently, then you can request your own key and secret and set it up yourself in each class. Once installed, you should then see CK-12 included in the list of options for apps when you add materials to your course. So with that, let me go ahead and swap my screen over to the CK-12 Live platform and show you how this works. So here you can see the CK-12 homepage. You're welcome to go ahead and explore our content, explore our Flexi, our Tutor, our Flexbooks, study guides, adaptive practice, Sims, and Plix. All of these are options for you to go ahead and explore. And let's say you want to dig into one. You can say, okay, I like this. Maybe I want something about astronomy. I heard someone talking about the new moon mission recently, so we can talk about this. And you're not going to use this assign a class feature on CK-12 if you're browsing. If I click on that, you'll see I can assign to CK-12, but I can't assign directly to Schoology from here. Instead, if I really like what I'm looking at and I want to remember it and bookmark it, as long as I'm logged in with the same email that I have for my Schoology account, I can go ahead and add this to my library, and that will make it really easy to find in the long run. So option one is to go ahead and explore CK-12, check out our simulations, check out our Plix, check out our lessons. You can see our interactive math content, science content. We're going to go through some of this within the platform, but I find it really easy to explore kind of without the frame that you're going to see inside Schoology. So go ahead and explore CK-12 on our main page, bookmark anything you want to save, especially if you're assigning shortly after that piece, and then go ahead and swap over to Schoology. And once the CK-12 app is set up within Schoology, if you want to make a new assignment, you can click Add Materials, and then click on your CK-12 app. And here you'll see this like portal window to CK-12. So you can also see, let's see if we looked at science, we can actually access simulations right from within here and browse by different types. I can preview it. I can assign it directly if I know what I'm looking at. So that's one option to do assignments straight from here. Another, if I don't want to necessarily explore from here, is I can go straight to my library and open up that particular piece. We had that astronaut training chamber. And now when I click create assignment, because I opened it from within Schoology, it's going to remember my Schoology information, and I can create that assignment. Now, one thing that happens within Schoology is that because of the way it's set up, it just like quick creates your assignment, and then you're going to click on this, edit it, and you need to click this enable grading option. If you don't click that, we actually can't send information back to Schoology, and so students can't submit the work that they've done. So go ahead and enable that. And then this is just a quick simulation, so maybe I'm going to make this worth 15 points for a student. And I can choose to pick a due date within Schoology. It's not something that CK-12 has information on, but it's there. I can pick my category. This is just an assignment. And then I can save those changes. So you want to make sure that you've done that, at least, if nothing else, the enable grading and your point values, and where it's getting sent so that it works correctly in your Schoology gradebook. So that's one option. I was browsing CK-12. If you wanted to customize content, you'd go back and browse CK-12 as well, and you could make customization pieces there. We have a great webinar on customization. But in the meantime, this is how you would assign content. So that was a really simple simulation that we opened up. It's got some cool things I highly recommend exploring, but we're talking about that integration today. So I'm going to go back and let's talk about assigning something else. So if I open this app up again, and let's say I want to assign a lesson in geometry. So you can see here the table of contents for the geometry book. It's just showing you right into that book itself. We open the chapter on 3 dimensions, and let's say we open one on pyramids and cones. You as a teacher can see what this looks like. So you can see this just like a student would in some cases as we're going through. You get a little bit of like viewing practice instead of starting, but the content itself here is the same. I can see the base, the lateral faces, the vertex. Our geometry content has a lot of really cool interactive pieces. This volume one would link to a lesson on volume. This pyramid one has a hover over vocabulary. There's all sorts of options here. I could go ahead and ask Flexi, how do you calculate surface area of a pyramid? And let's scroll back up, and you can kind of see as we go through here. There we go. It's going to show me actually a video. That's what it pulled up to help answer this piece. So you can ask Flexi a question. Flexi keeps students on track with their tasks, as well as helping them answer pieces. You could view this practice. Again, you notice kind of as I was going up and down, it has this window inside a window within Schoology. So if you're really trying to explore, it's much, much easier to do on our core platform. But you could choose to preview this from here and actually see what this looked like. It's going to open up our assignment options. It's just taking a second to load. Students could get a hint if they needed it. They could try to answer this question. And again, this window is really small, so it's not going to be quite as easy to navigate. But you can kind of see how that answer works there as we went through. So all sorts of options. I'm going to stop this for right now. But you can play around with our practice. You can explore those different resources. But really, much easier to do on CK-12 itself. This particular interface, you're going to want to kind of open it up, say, yep, this is the lesson I want to assign, click assign. And then I can go ahead and again, I can see pyramids and cones. I'm going to click edit, enable grading, change this point value, let's say to 30 points for homework. And then again, I have to pick the assignment. Everything else is negotiable. Do not change the consumer key and secret here. That is all already set up when it's set up there. You're going to end up just overriding stuff and changing things, but the title I could change. I could say, okay, this is a 2.0 lesson on pyramids and cones. And then the point values and the due dates and that stuff down at the bottom, I can go ahead and save. So those are some really cool things to kind of check out. If you're looking to assign materials that are attached to a lesson, you can go ahead and open up the app again. You can pick, let's look at maybe our science content for a second. And if I clicked on Earth Science, again, same thing here. Notice this item I saved in my library later. It looks like I'm looking at a newer version of that item, so I could sync that in my library and just kind of make sure I'm pointing to the most recent content if I wanted to. And then I could open up a lesson, click on the content here. This one has images, it has text. We have same hover over vocabulary, all sorts of options as you go through this piece. And then the practice again, which I could preview. But up in the top right is our toolbar. There you could see any notes or highlights you took within a lesson, a summary of that lesson, and related content. And so here I have a Plix, some real world applications, a video, and a study guide. The study guides aren't assignable. You can just share that link. Again, making sure to pick the display a new window option, but your videos, your applications, those are all kind of complete or incomplete, as is this Plix. And so Our simulation, when we open that up, and we'll show you what it looks like as an assignment, is really kind of a full system thing for physics or molecular version for chemistry, but our Plix are little quick interactives. So some sort of description and some sort of interactive piece. In this case, we're looking at sonar. And then I could learn more by checking out content related to that, some text content, as well as a challenge me option where students can actually work their way up with questions, learning as they go through. So this is a great opportunity for like an introduction, a start of class, other pieces as you work through. But again, I can just create that assignment from right within here. It's going to quick assign that. And then I do need to go ahead back and enable grading. So, and again, required fields. Point value, if I want to set it, maybe 10 points for this Plix, save changes, and we're good to go. So we have these different resources here. Now, once I've assigned it, the next thing that happens is a student could go ahead and actually do that work. So I'm going to swap over this share to a student screen. This is our student. We're going to go to the course, our Spring 2020 course that we were just working on because I haven't updated it. And you'll see 3 new assignments in here. Let's say I open the simulation one. I can now see this assignment as a student. And it notes that I have to actually do a little bit of an interaction to start getting credit for this particular piece. I can even expand this to a full window. And it's kind of out of shape, so it's a little bit off, but we're okay there. You get the opening piece. We have Earth and places. We can see how they're doing, whether or not they can pick it up and go through from there. I'm going to go ahead and drop this back down just so it's actually visible a little better. But regardless of how the student goes ahead and plays around with this, maybe answers some questions, checks out additional real-world applications, once they've done some interaction on this option, then they can actually turn this in. So for them to get credit in Schoology, we would need to click this turn in option, and then they've turned in that assignment. Now, this is a case where because it's just sending a complete or incomplete, maybe you actually want to share this link to the simulation, have them open in a new window, and then turn in written text or something like that if you want them to describe what they did. So there's definitely options on how that plays out and what that looks like, but they can go ahead and do that. For a lesson, like one on pyramids and cones, you can go ahead and open up this lesson, and if they want to try to turn it in, they actually need to do that practice first. So if they click this, it says, oops, you haven't completed this assignment. They're going to go through, maybe they check out some of these vocabulary pieces, try some interactives as they go through, loading a bunch of fun pieces, try this little interactive, whatever they want to do as they go through. And then when they're done learning the content, that actually launches a Plix outside of there, they're going to do the attached practice. Oop. And so you can see I'm going to start this practice right here. And once the student has done some part of the practice, that's where they can actually go through and go from there. So again, we had this question earlier, so I'm going to check a different answer. I got that one right. It's going to keep going on from now. And I have a very small window to work with right here, so we can check it again. And at any point in time, the student can go ahead and stop. They've gotten one right. They could choose to turn in their homework at that point in time, and then they can continue to turn it in up until the due date. So they would definitely want to consider saying, okay, well, I turned it in, but maybe I want to turn it in again, which they will have that chance to do kind of as they work through from there. So that's how the student would work. And then let me just swap back over again so you can see how grades and insights work. So here, I'm back in this piece. Because I've assigned these through that add materials option with an external tool, when students submit their work, it will show up in my gradebook. And I happen to do mine in no grading period, so I'm going to swap over to that. And you can see these random point values in here. Astronaut training, notice the only student that's done this yet is this last person because I just assigned it and we only did one student. But you can see the grades will show up in here. Now, that's great, but that just gives me a point value. So instead, what I may want to do is look at the materials. And let's go back to one where I've done a little more work with student work on it. So if we click on this, this is a lesson on projectile motion. And I can preview this assignment as if I was a student, or I have 2 other options. I can open my reports, my class reports here, and that will get me to the detailed report for that particular piece. And you can see here projectile motion for an object launched at an angle, but it's going to open up this more detailed report. And again, we're going to scroll back to where there's actually a little more content. So our PLIX, real world applications, video sims, those get full or no credit. Our quizzes, you can see here. This one allowed for multiple attempts. This student did it twice, so I can see both attempts and view those details. If I limit the attempts, I could discard an attempt, but you can actually see all the detailed and answers and pieces, whether or not they used a hint, if Flexi helped out with correcting spelling. And then practice, on the other hand, goal is to get 10 correct. So what you're going to see is a score out of 10 correct. So in this case, the student got 10. This student got 10 out of 10 correct. Sorry, they got the full 10 correct, but it took them 12 questions to work with. And so 5 easy, they got all right. 5 out of 7 medium, they got right. So they're at that proficient skill level. And again, I can look at the specific answers as we go through. This student hasn't done enough to get a skill level determined and has only gotten 2 out of 10 questions right. So they would really need to do some more work for you to even tell how they were doing, because they've gotten both questions right, but they haven't actually done enough to give us a sense of how they're doing or even completed their assignment. So that's your score. I could quickly skip to that skill level option if I wanted to see how students were doing. So proficient, beginning, developing. That gray means that they started, but they haven't gone far enough. And you can kind of see how the student is doing on these different lessons. Clearly, that student's done more work as a demo account than the other ones. But that gives you the detailed class report as you go through. So as we're working on from here, the other thing I want to talk about is that piece, which is our insight part. So projectile motion for an object launched at an angle. If I open this up, oops, it actually opened up exactly what I wanted, which was the insights for this class. And you can see that as a whole class, there's not enough data really to see what this looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out and just show you the demo class on the insights piece, just so you can get a sense of what that looks like. And the demo class is going to map, and this is what will happen when you have enough data points for your students on a lesson, the skill level or their quiz kind of percentage score to the engagement. How did they engage with the lesson? Did they read it? Did they try the interactives? Did they check vocabulary? Whatever did that looked like. Students that might need to finish their homework. This I love. It gives you some example questions, and this is a demo class, so they're not related to this topic, but some questions that you could start class with that students were struggling with. Maybe a prerequisite concept they're struggling with, or some other resources. So definitely check out these insights and recommendations. For example, these two students have a beginning skill level, but this one spent 9 seconds and barely engaged with the lesson. And this one spent almost 6 minutes and actually tried out any interactives or maybe highlighted, definitely took the time to read it and understand it. So 3 options in terms of seeing student progress. The insights, if you have a 2.0 lesson that has practice or a quiz attached to it. The full class detailed report that you could open from that same assignment page. Or again, the gradebook is going to just send that completion score for homework or quiz score as you go through. And it will be under kind of whatever grading period and type of assignment you put it in within your Schoology gradebook. So let's see how we are doing with questions, Dan.
So right now we actually only have one question. Andrea asks, can students complete the practice after the due date?
That's actually a really good question. So for CK-12 classes, so the short version is they can continue practicing at any point in time because our platform really is a learning platform. But in terms of what gets sent to you, I don't think we are able to see the due date in Schoology in the same way we can for CK-12. But you can check that date and go from there. And then students would just kind of complete that practice by the time you did it. I don't know if Schoology locks it down in the same way on their end. I can check that if you reach out to us and we can get an answer on that particular piece. But it doesn't send us the due date. So from our end, it would continue to be able to share that piece. And always students, because it's a learning platform, can go back. It just may not share kind of an updated grade with the platform at that particular time. And I know it doesn't for ones that do have due dates like our classes or Google Classroom if they're assigned through our system. So yeah, other questions?
So that's actually all we have in the Q&A right now. So I'm going to go over some final logistics. So this is a good time. If anybody does have any other questions, please put them in this Q&A and we'll stay on as long as we need to answer all of your questions. As we move into resources, I just want to remind you of the page we shared at the beginning of this webinar. If you want any quick refreshers or just to share how to use CK-12 within Schoology with others, you can check that out on our overview page at ck12.org/Schoology. And if you need any additional assistance beyond that included in the Schoology page, visit ck12.org/help, or you can click on help in our footer for quick articles and tips for using CK-12. You can also ask Flexi a question when you're inside of Flexbook 2.0 or directly at ck12.org/Flexi. You can also check out our webinars page at ck12.org/webinars to see archived recordings of this and other webinars that we've done. If you've never visited CK-12's YouTube channel, we also have a wide range of videos there, from content tutorials to testimonials to previous webinars. I'd also like to call special attention to the quick overviews playlist. These are bite-sized videos, so they're only a couple minutes in length, but they'll help you quickly get all the information you need on a variety of CK-12 tasks. You can also easily access this playlist at the bottom of our webinars page. For those of you that are interested in a deeper dive into all of CK-12's tools and resources, please be sure to join our free professional development program. This certified educator program can be completed on your own schedule and comes with a certificate documenting your work. Plus, you get a really cool badge that you can put in your email signature. To learn more about this and to register for a class, please visit ck12.org/certified and click join to register for the program and be placed in a class. For additional help, you can contact any of our CK-12 certified trainers to see if they're available for professional development for your school or district. You can find out more information and learn more about our trainers at ck12.co/trainer. Again, we do want to just take a second to thank you all for joining us today. Let me assure you that you will continue to be supported by our team at CK-12. We're happy to help you, so send us an email at any time, 24/7, to support@ck12.org. And don't forget to let your social networks know about CK-12 and your participation in our program. We're on all of the major social media networks as CK-12 Foundation, or you can check hashtag CK-12 certified for those who opt to join the CEP. And that's it for today's core programming. But as promised, we will stay on after for any additional questions that you'd like our team to answer. So Katie, do we have any questions come in while I was going through that?
Yeah, we do have a question about permitting one submission of practice, and that is not going to happen even when we have due dates set up. Those students, if you remember, let me go ahead and back and swap to the screen. That student can turn in it again. So if they submit that work and they want to show you, maybe they got to part of it and showed you that they are working on it, but they haven't finished. That is true for all of our classes, all of our integrations, at least up until the due date. If you are concerned about them doing more than one submission of practice, then you may want to consider customizing our practice into a quiz. So if you were going to do that, I can go ahead and swap back to a teacher version. And I could open up any of my lessons. Let's say I open up a biology lesson and I can pick a topic. So I can open up here, go ahead in, and let's see, we're going to pick photosynthesis. So if I go ahead and I do this, then I could check this out. This one's a little different. We have the same deal for some stuff. If I'm exploring this on CK-12, there's a Google Translate option at the bottom. And you'll actually see, once this finishes loading, some interactive options right here where students can kind of get direct feedback as they go up there. But within that practice, there's the option to customize this practice. And if I do that, I'm going to customize that content into a quiz, and then I can pick and choose a set of questions. You lose the adaptive general practice learning features of our adaptive practice, but you can handpick your questions within here. You can actually pick and choose exactly which questions you want within here. And you could assign this. There's actually also ways to kind of swap out that practice with your specific pieces if you were interested in having everyone kind of do those same questions. And that you can set an attempt limit at. So if you just want students to go through this once, they can't redo any of it, they don't get extra points, you can turn off hints, all of that you can go ahead and turn that into a quiz. And then we're just going to call this a photosynthesis quiz because I will never remember what I was doing previously. And again, I can show my hints. I can set this attempt to be, they got one shot, deal with it. And then I can update this. And if I did that, I could then assign this quiz specifically within Schoology. And you would find that in your library. You can see my library right here. And you can go ahead and pick and choose your quizzes, or you can swap them out with the practice in a lesson. And that would limit the amount of times a student could submit stuff from there and go from that point. Any other questions? I think that's what we have for now. So I would definitely recommend kind of scrolling to the bottom of our page. You can see, you know, our Google Translate option there, what I was talking about, but check out our tools and apps as we go through stuff. So click here and go to that Schoology page. That's going to give you all of the information that you need to walk through videos, how to assign content, how you can share this one, the second one right here after assigning, this turning in step 3 for your students, share that with your students, reports. And again, we will update the bottom of this with today's webinar with any additional questions, but it looks like we got, is that the same for math classes? If you're talking about the customization I just did, yes, all of our practice is customizable into quizzes. You can actually copy the question and update it yourself, or just pick and choose your questions, write your own, making sure that anything you are adding to our platform fits within our license. So I think that's it. That was a nice clean 30 or so minutes. So we're going to stop today, and feel free to reach out to us at support if you have questions in the future. Thanks so much for joining us.